Happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome back. It's actually been 2 weeks since we did this. My parents were visiting last week, so I took the night off from streaming and was hanging out with them. We had a great time. I don't know how well it'll show up on screen, but we have something new in the background. That's my deconstructed Pixel 1. I finally hung it up on the wall. It looks great. I have more stuff to hang on the wall behind me coming in the future. I can't wait to share all of that. Still have a grainy webcam. I need to sort out what's going on here, but it's fine. Um, Finishing a Compose live new release. Yeah, drop a link in chat. We'll take a look at it. Um, Welcome back. I'm excited to do this stream. We're going to build out the design system for the TOA app. This is the second stream, second/third stream in that series. Last time we looked at a bunch of developer experience concepts, KT-Lib, Detect, GitHooks, GitHub Actions. This time we're actually going to take a look at some early designs for the app and some colors and set up a design system and put a lot of that UI framework in place for when we dive in and actually start building the app. Um, but I'm trying to think, I had other ideas. Oh, one other thing I want to talk about before we get started, and I'll look at the library before we get started. Exclamation point new vid in chat to see my YouTube video that went out earlier this week, where I finally did the MVI MVVM comparison video. Uh, I had a ton of fun making that. I'm sorry that it took so long. I said I would do it when I hit 600 subscribers on YouTube, and by the time I released it, we had over 800. So the channel's growing really fast. So for those of you watching this on YouTube, thank you. I love you. For those of you watching on Twitch, I also love you. Thank you for being here. Um, all right, let's switch over. Let's make sure I went to the right setup here. Yes, awesome. Uh, got our little task down there, but let's look at SKM's link before we start. It's cool. So, um, do you want me to call you SKM or can I call you by your name? Because I see it up here on the screen, but I don't know what you prefer. Um, but why don't you tell us a little bit in chat while I look through the README what this library is supposed to do? Um, or I can zoom in and I can share it. Rafael from Portugal, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Ah, that is one announcement I wanted to make. I didn't want to make a big deal about this, but letting those of you who are here now know, I know that a lot of you uh, are in Europe and other places where this stream is not really friendly time zone wise. So I floated the idea with my manager about trying to find one day a week to do a daytime, well, this for me, a daytime stream, and what might be a better like evening time stream for all of you folks. And they were very interested and okay with the idea, um, kind of on the condition I'm actually working on a pretty big project for my company right now. So they politely hinted that they would like me to see this current feature to completion. But once we do that, we're going to revisit the topic and I'm going to try to find time during the week to do a second stream. So I don't see this happening until like maybe like sometime in November, but just a heads up that we are going to eventually do that. It might just be a while. Um, but awesome. So let's see. So this is a library to use alongside Compose navigation that makes navigating between destinations easier, requiring no boilerplate code. So I've only done a little bit with, it uses KSP to make some code for you. Okay, and KSP is the new annotation processing tool, right? I believe so. So I've done some Compose navigation stuff in the past. If you've a regular to the stream, you've seen those. Um, but let's see. So annotate the composable functions that you want to add to the graph with @destination. Okay, so we give this a destination. It has a route, which is how Compose navigation works. We navigate to a given route. And then we also need to know the start destination. That makes sense. Um, and okay, we could do more. Build the project. I'm assuming that, yep, so that makes it generate the destination's files. And let's see, replace your nav host with destinations.navhost, or if using scaffold, replace with destinations.scaffold. You can remove builder blocks, you won't be needing them anymore. Got it. So we just create a nav host like this. And that's it. You don't even need to pass. You don't need, if you don't need. Okay. If the destination has arguments, simply add them to the composable function. I see. Okay. So this would be like the user ID. Okay, this is really cool. This feels a lot more like the navigation component works in Kotlin with like taking the XML files, generating like this reminds me of like the navigation directions class or nav directions, I think it's called, where it like will create the type safe navigations for you. But now this is just it in Compose. This is really cool. Uh, I will definitely, I'm gonna give this a star. I'm gonna post it in chat again for anyone who's shown up who hasn't seen this, but definitely go check out this library. I'll give it a star, and then when we do add navigation to this app, which we eventually will, I'd love to try it out. I don't think that will be in today's stream. And we've got a cube solve. What a great start. Where is my Rubik's Cube? I think it's behind me, isn't it? It is. Awesome. Also, hello, Trash It. Thank you for coming by. Let's do a Rubik's Cube solve before we get started. I haven't done one of these in a while. And by in a while, I mean 2 weeks ago. I'll lower this down. I've got this like got this setup in place. Lower the webcam, move the mic out of the way. We're ready to go. This is currently solved, so let me scramble it with this scramble that's up on the screen really quick. All right. So here's the scrambled cube. Everyone can see this. Trash Kid especially, I'm sure. Um, I appreciate the lurking. And I hope that if you haven't seen me do this yet, hopefully I can blow your mind before you go play those toxic players. Let's see what we can do. All right. Ooh, 2694. Not bad. Not bad. Uh, oh, cool. This has my cookie history. So last time we were 24 seconds. I don't know if you can read those. So not as fast as the last time someone made me do this, but still pretty good. Still sub 30. Thank you for that, Trash Kit. All right. So let's get back into the coding side. So exclamation point GitHub if you haven't seen this project or you want to go star the repo. But we're basically making a wholesome task management app, and we've just started. And I actually read a really good post that Matt McKenna sent me recently around basically was saying you don't need a to-do list app, you need a schedule maker. And I thought that was really interesting and some stuff to think about as we build this app, because the short version of what I was trying to say is like the problem with traditional task management apps is you just have this never-ending list of things to get done, right? And like that works for some people, but for other people, that's just fundamentally overwhelming. And like the thing I'm trying to combat by making a wholesome task manager is to combat that like overwhelmingness, right? And all that stuff going on. Uh, so then I started thinking, well, the idea of a schedule maker is like rather than viewing all of these things that need to get done, you put in what you need to get done and when you plan to do it. And like you want to stick to that schedule. And so it can actually be really well to make sure you don't have this constant feeling of all these things you need to do, but just like, on Wednesday, I have this one thing to do. And that could still be hard for a lot of people, just having one thing on the list if it's something you really dread. And that's something we can think about on how we can make the app helpful to people with that, but that's just something to think out as we look at these rough designs. So I teased this idea on Twitter. I spent a ton of time this week playing around in Figma to see if I could build out like a little bit of a design system and sketch a handful of screens inside the app. Now, I didn't plan to make today's app one where we look at Figma, but someone messaged me on Twitter and they were interested in that idea. So maybe next time we can do something like, Figma for Android developers and show how we could make some of these designs ourselves. But let me just briefly show you what I did. So the first thing I did was play around with like a color palette for the app. So I set like a primary and secondary color. We've got like a background and a surface color. And then we've got all of these values in here of like, these are what their hex codes are, if anyone's curious. We set up all of our typography, maybe not all. I looked at one of the Android Dev Challenge apps, and I looked at like their style sheet, and I took the same typography setup, and then replaced it. So all of these font sizes and things like that are the same, but then this urbanist font style is different. This is actually one I found on Google Fonts that I really liked. So this is what we're going to use in this project. And then I made like a handful of like ideal components. So like a primary button that's filled in, a secondary button that would just be text. We've got our tried and true floating action button, right? A text input, rounded, the same height as the button, just a small like note there. Like what a task list card could do. And the really nice thing about setting up these components first in Figma is that like these are reusable. If we look at this assets list right here, that's this button at the top left, we can see all of my components. So when I go to build a new screen, it's possible for me to just drag and drop stuff right in here. So we'll definitely, before we go to implement a new screen, we'll look at this together. But that's just what I did here. And actually what's open on the right is you could see the colors and the text styles. So it links everything in the Figma doc, which is what we want to happen in our app, right? We want everything to reference like a primary color. We want Figma to be the same way. So like if I went in here, I'm going to copy this so I don't lose it. But for kicks and giggles, if I went into our primary color here and I said, I don't know, we're going to make this like, I think this is red. It updated everything in the app that was using our primary color. So this is really cool that Figma lets you set up color styles and text styles and things like that. So you have that consistency all throughout the project. So yeah, this was a ton of fun to build. This is like an ideal welcome screen. Maybe we change this up a little bit. Yeah, it took me a little while, but then it was all of a sudden not that bad. I still have a couple weirdness, like I don't know why we're seeing like this white block around the fab. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, you could definitely see it. Um, I was still got some weirdness going on, but it's a start. So from this is how I structured Figma. Let me type it in there. I think their website is just figma.com. There is like a free tier. You only get so much space and capabilities with a free tier, enough for me to do what I wanted to do here. There are lots of other tools. You might have seen stuff like Sketch, Zeppelin, I think is another one. Trying to remember what else I've used at past companies. Figma is what I use in my current company, and so it was something I was already kind of familiar with. But this is really cool for designers. But then if we look at something here, if we look at the right-hand side, there's an Inspect tab, which gives you property information. This is more towards like the developers who are going to implement stuff. And actually we could see this code section down here where like it gives us the CSS related to this button. And there is like an Android option that shows like how we could put this in like a relative layout, and it's a little complicated because I converted all of this into a vector, which is not what we would actually do. But depending on the screen, it can give you some helpful information. I will probably not be using this inspect tab a whole lot. Um, Really what I like from Figma is like getting dimensions and spacing and things like that. Um, so yeah, I'll this is what I built. Plan on in the future I'll do a stream where I'll actually, and I'm no expert because I spent one day on this, but I can actually walk through some of what I built in Figma, and hopefully that'll be interesting. I think a lot of people would like that, especially if we can break it down to where it doesn't seem so intimidating. Because when I got started, I was like, several times I was ready to give up on this idea. Uh, but then once I got the hang of it, and once I figured out like the components and the reusable color styles, everything goes by so much faster. So that was really nice. But let's dive in. So before I get started on code, we're going to stick with our what we've been doing of using GitHub projects, uh, of keeping track of all of our tickets we want to work on. So I think that we have um, all of what I want to do here. There's 4 cards specifically because I guess in design system we'll group colors and typography, but let's let's start with colors. So I'm pulling up the colors on my other screen, um, and then we'll go into the app and do that. So let's make a new branch. I'm going to use the UI for this because I think this is a little more friendly. Um, And just a reminder, if you've never seen this, the branch convention I like to use is the app initials, TOA. This is the issue number. Um, on this card, we see this is issue number 19. So TOA-19, and then a slash and like a readable description of what we're actually doing. So this will be colors. Um, so we've got all we have in here is the default like compose template. Our main activity shows some stuff. We have this color file where it defines like purples and teals. We're gonna get rid of these. We don't care about them. Um, and then this is where we can define, oh my god, that's not what I wanted. Our own color palette in here. Um, Now the convention they would typically use is like, yeah, you saw material design. They'll do like blue 500 or something. And then they'll give that a color and they'll put in the hex code. Um, and I guess a problem with my current palette is this isn't really a blue 500. I also don't know what the color name for this should be. But let me show you a tool that I've used in the past that's actually kind of fun for this stuff. So I showed y'all Coolers, which is a website for generating color palettes. Nope, this isn't. This isn't it. Um, a website for generating color palettes. And one thing I like about it um, is that it does give every color like a name. So if I went here and I put in our hex code, we can see that it gives us the name. I don't know if you could read it, Prussian blue. And so I think I'll do that, and then I can come over and I can like I could call this, Prussian blue, and then whoops, actually, let's just do that. But I don't know if this is actually very helpful to get the color names, so I think I'm going to backtrack on this side. It's only helpful if I think I'm going to reuse this hex code. And the answer is I don't know. Um, let's go with this. I'm going to call it primary blue. And then when I have more time, or if we have time at the end, I'll get better names. But let's just be a little more specific at what these are, right? So this will be color. This is FC8138. background blue. This will be F4, F4, F8. We have, I have this on background, which isn't quite black. So it's like a really dark gray. But that's one color. And then I think those are all my individual colors that I have. So then we need the actual color palette. So we can create a light color palette. And I think I'll save dark mode for another stream or when I can learn more about is this yelling at me because it's the case? Yeah. But I don't really know if all these same colors will work right in a dark mode, so we'll revisit that. Let's type these in. So our primary color is going to be primary blue. Our secondary color will be secondary orange. We also have our on primary, which will be white. Our on secondary is also going to be white. Background is going to be background blue. On background is going to be our on background black. Surface will be white. And then on surface, we're going to use our primary color. So this was me just taking everything from the Figma file. Basically, all of these hex codes are what I just put into the app. So where do we use those? Well, that's actually inside our theme. We're going to delete those old palettes. And then here, like I said, we're not going to work about dark theme yet, so we're just going to reference light color palette. We'll leave this here because we might use it in the future. But then we could run this and see what this looks like. I don't think we're actually going to get anything special. In fact, we're going to have the same problem as a previous stream where, actually, this is all super weird. None of this is what I wanted. Question here from Rogue. If you're ever up for it, I'd like to hear about how you guys deal with developer productivity focused work at your work. We've been dealing with a legacy code base that has been limiting productivity, and trying to come up with a strategy to make meaningful refactors has become an issue. That is a problem almost everywhere you go. Some ways I've seen companies approach it, if you really can't like sell to your employer, hey, we need designated time to refactor this, you can try to get sneaky and slide that into like an actual feature work. Like, let's say your home screen is built upon some legacy implementation, and you're being asked to do a feature to update the home screen. You can basically try to go back to them and say, what you're asking for is impossible until we do this work to refactor how the home screen works. And that may or may not be true, but like that's something you can say to them, and then now it's like, okay, now we know that if we want to do this second thing, we need to carve out time for the first one. I think that's one way to really sell tech debt that I've seen focused, and just something to keep in mind. If you can tie that work you want to do to a specific feature request and then say like, no, this feature is blocked until we do this, that's one really good way to do it. Yeah, it probably is accurate. They'll come back to you and be like, well, can you do it? And we're engineers, so we're going to be like, well, technically, of course we can. But you could put your foot down and be like, no. Okay, actually, this for the most part, I think did pick up my colors. What's funny is like this isn't taking up the whole screen, and this bar at the top is actually using still using the default material colors. One thing I'm gonna change my emulator. Oh my god. I'm gonna try to change my emulator. What the heck? To light theme. I know, blasphemy. But we're gonna start with a light theme this time. It makes my face so bright. Okay, yeah, I can see the colors are here, but it just doesn't fill up the whole screen. Um, so that's just a thing in the Compose template. But we did what we set out to do, which was add the color palette. So I'm gonna just push this code. What is this file? Do I care about this file? I don't think we care about this file. Let's add this to gitignore. Um, can I not do that from here? Oh, I can refuse to check it in, I guess. Okay, adding color palette for number 19. And, well, one thing is, let's push this up. Let's push this up. I'm getting ahead of myself. I do that every once in a while. I'm going to break up the stream into small PRs. But some of you may remember when we set up the danger checks last time, we made one danger check that enforces every pull request needs to modify our stream history file. So before I make a pull request, it's going to yell at me. So let's set up a new section, stream 3 design system. And we can say in this stream, we set up a design system for the application. And then I'm going to put a note in here. Well, so our date will be September 22nd, 2021. And I'll get the link for this later, but I'll at least put it in place. And we have an error in detect. What went wrong? Unused private member. Okay, so I will delete this because our static analysis yells at us otherwise. Okay. So we could say updating. I really want, there used to be an option here where I could add that to gitignore. I want that file to not show up. Here we go. Git. It's in here somewhere. I swear there was a way to like add this to a gitignore. Maybe I need to like um not add it to Git. And then from here I can do, yeah, okay. I can only add it to my gitignore once I've once it's not added to Git. Okay. Updating stream history. And I'm also gonna keep tagging that issue number. And then while this runs, I'll start setting up the typography because I also realized something I didn't do before the stream is I think I was on a different computer when I was playing around with Figma. So I need to actually, I'll check. I might need to download the text styles on this machine and then import them into Android Studio. So that should be fun. Let's get our pull request going for number 19. And then we'll start digging out the color palette. So with the white color theme for the application. Do I have a design label? I like doing that. Nope, we'll create one. Make it purple. This is in our design and branding project. Pull request. Nice. Okay, so while that's running, I mentioned we also want to get our typography in place. So let's do a new branch. TOA 19/typography. And I mentioned that I don't have the font that I want to use on here on this machine. So let's get that real quick. I went to Google Fonts for this, and I just kind of looked around, but the one I liked was called Urbanist. So we're just going to download family. We don't need the whole thing. if we look at the zip file, how do I do this? So if we look inside here, we don't need every version of the font. Um, there's just a handful in here, but let's review what we need. I'm gonna pull them out into the main thing. That's how I'm gonna do it. One we wanted was extra bold. Um, we want semi-bold. We want medium. We want light and regular bold. But we're gonna copy these. There should be a copy thing. Copy. And what we can do with those two TF files is we can actually go to our res directory, make a new folder for font, and then we can paste them all in here. One thing we'll have to do is that Android resources don't like this naming convention, so we're just gonna have to rename these to use like snake case. So we could do like urbanist bold like this. Urbanist extra bold, urbanist light. Also, ADHD brain. We completed one task. We did colors. Let's check that off our list on the screen. Our low-tech stream checklist. Let me know if y'all, I did want to get feedback for this. Let me know if y'all find that little checklist helpful. I wanted to try it out, see if I liked it, see if y'all liked it. If you do, I do want to invest more time into making it less low tech. It's literally reading from a text file on my machine. But I could build something much cooler to show our checklist of what we're working on. Um, but that's great. This is all of the text files that we could want, or text styles that we do want, rather. So now we can begin to set up the typography here. So here's an example from the material template. So we create this typography instance, and then it has a parameter for each text style you could use. So there's like body 1, there's button, there's caption. We also have like heading 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. Let's get rid of it, and let's start by doing our own thing. So the first thing we need to do is actually define the font families, our custom font families. So like here, we could say, um, Urbanist Extra Bold is one. This will be font family, and then we give it a font, and then we give it a resource ID, which would be like r.font.urbanist extra bold. Let's get rid of the emulator window. Sorry about this. I can close this out too. And that's how we would define a font family from one of those custom .ttf files that we just pasted in Android Studio. I'm going to add this to my dictionary so it doesn't yell at me. All right, so let's do that with the others. So we're going to have semi-bold. Should that be? Yeah. Uh, font family, font, uh, label it semi-bold. We're going to have, oops, regular bold. We're going to have medium. Also, hi, Prince. How are you doing? Thank you for stopping by. I hope you are enjoying your week still. It is Wednesday, halfway through it. Font family, font urbanist, light. All right, there's all of our font families. Cool. Now we need to set up our actual typography. Let's do this. Um, why are you yelling at me? Is this not it? There we go. Um, Okay, let's start with H1. This will be a text style. The font family will be extra bold. The font size is going to be 40, I think is what I have here. I'm not going to worry about letter spacing. Um, gonna get tacos and write some code. No, you definitely can't complain at all. I'm not gonna worry about line height and letter spacing yet, but probably something I should play with later. Um, but let's not worry about that right now. Uh, H2 will be text style. Font family is also going to be extra bold. And the font size for H2 is going to be 36. Let's do H3, be text style. This one is going to be semi-bold. And the font size for this one is 13. I feel like that's weird. I took that from, like I said, from one of the other Android Dev sub challenges and Android Dev challenges. And 13 feels like a weird text size, but we're gonna roll with it. Um, for this medium, this will be 15. We've got body one. This will be this light, and font size for this one will be 13. And then button will be Urbanus bold, and the font size for that one will be 13. Now, I really wish that you could set capitalization on a text style, um, but Compose still doesn't offer that. So even though I want my buttons to always have capital letters, that's something we're going to have to do at the button layer. But that's fine. Our next step after we cross this off is going to be designing our own standard buttons. Sorry, just checking to make sure I didn't miss any notifications. We're good. Okay, and then here I actually need to reference our typography, but then I think we should be good. Let's also modify our stream history file here. I will fill these in at the end when I actually have their links, but at least I know what I need to go find. So we could say here, adding typography for number 19. Awesome. We're cruising along today. I know this is also between the one time we did it for the study guide and for the other dev challenges. This is like the fourth time doing a live stream on setting up a design system. So I actually find it kind of nice that this is like my sole focus of the stream tonight. Um, so when I'm done, I'll probably cut it short and then we can have a video that is just going over all the steps to a design system and building some core components in an application. Let's look at our color palette. Woohoo. And we removed more lines than we added, so we did some code cleanup here. Um, I actually have no idea how we did that. Ooh, are these supposed to be there? That feels like a mistake. But we'll leave. Oh, we removed like their palettes, which is how we were able to remove code. All right, let's squash and merge this. I'm gonna say fixes number 19. Or no, I don't want to say fixes number 19 yet. I don't want to close that ticket until we merge the typography stuff as well. So let's just squash and merge this. And now we can make a new pull request, which is adding typography. This adds standard text styles to be used in the application. Label for this, we have a design label now. And this is also part of the design and branding project. I'm gonna have merge commits because I squashed and merged. Let's resolve conflicts. We'll just do it right in the editor. Okay, so we'll let this run for a second, so we don't get too far ahead of ourselves. Does anyone who's been watching this have questions? Um, what we did so far, like if you have questions about it, let me know. It is as it seems, as like, where's Figma? This part, getting these into your app, is as quick as more or less copy and pasting. You're just entering some hex codes, and creating some text styles. But we'll see shortly how like that makes a ton of difference to do up front, and that when we start building the application, we'll just have all of that design information ready for us at our disposal. Um, that's why I'm excited to do like standard components for buttons and inputs, because again, when I go to, with everything we've done today, um, and maybe we'll do it at the time. Once we add in all of our colors and typography, our standard inputs and buttons, this screen will probably take like less than 10 minutes, because we'll have all of the components we need to get started. And actually the same is true for the add task screen. Sure, we have to hook up like the data part of this, like we want to save tasks, but implementing this UI, won't take long at all because the colors, typography, everything we need will be done with today. So I'm happy with the order of operations that we're following on this project so far. I think that's really good. Um, so let's go ahead, even though we're waiting for that to build, let's check that off. And I don't know how long, let's look at the last pull request. I don't know if this is short enough for me to wait for it, or if I should just start on to the next thing. Um, I wanted to see how long things took in the previous runs. Um, okay, so this Android test takes 7.5 minutes. So I'm not going to wait for it to finish. We're going to dive into the buttons. Um, let's go look at our project and make sure our tickets are all in order. So, ooh, this is missing some automation. That's fun. WebShark, thank you for the Prime subscription. Where is my alert dialog? Oh no. I heard the sound, but the aha. Okay. Hold on. Um, okay. Let's replay that. There you go. My layers were all wrong. Thank you for the subscription, WebShark. Really appreciate it. Yeah, it was behind. Classic layering. Um, okay, I've got some automation broken on here because I don't see the pull request cards. Um, let me update those. Manage automation. Move new pull requests into here, and then when a pull request is merged, it should go in here. Uh, let's update our other pull requests so they're recorded properly. So here, this is now in progress. And our last pull request, we can mark as done. So now this board's looking right. Okay, I like it. The labels are cool on here. So that's still running. Let's start working on custom buttons. So this will be 34. New branch, TOA 34 buttons. Awesome. So let's talk a little bit. This project hasn't gotten far enough for me to really talk about package structure. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do like in my UI package, I'll put another package called like components, or maybe I'll call it core. Let's call it components. And then I'll put relevant components in there. So here's an annoying thing about Android Studio. Speak up if you know the solution to this. Over here, you see how I have UI and theme? Ah, have fun with tacos, Prince. So y'all see how I have UI and theme here, and because there's nothing else inside the UI package, IntelliJ or Android Studio groups them. But if I hit a new package right here, if I do new directory or new package and I call it components, I'm so dumb. I rubber ducked my solution here. I was gonna say I had no way of putting it like in the middle of this path. Like I want it at the UI level. And you can see here, it assumes I want it inside the theme package. It never occurred to me that I could just like drop it from here. I could back press on theme to get what I wanted. So that was a little bit of a confusing thing on my part, but now we're good. Uh, all right, and now let's create a new file. Um, let's call it primary button. So another way I've done this, if y'all want to learn some more Android Studio secrets, is okay, cool. All right. So oh my god, Raphael, I think. If you want to see how I would normally have done this, is if you modify the package name at the top of a file like this, and then you like option enter, we can have like change files package or move file to. And I would just do move file to this package. And if the package doesn't create, Android Studio will make it for me. So sometimes I would just make the file, and then later, or after I make the file, I would change the package up here, and then have it. Okay, cool. I'm glad I'm not crazy. But it's a really handy trick, uh, even still. Um, okay, so let's do some setup here. So one thing, we'll create a composable primary button. Another thing I'm going to do that I want to do with each of my components in this app is I want to, well, first of all, everything gets a preview. If you haven't seen this before, this is a cool preview annotation that renders both a night mode and a day mode preview. We'll throw this around a TOA theme, and then we'll put in a primary button. So, what do I want to do? Well, one thing I also want to keep in mind for each composable is I want, even if I don't use it, I want every composable that I make, this is a personal decision here, to be able to have a modifier. And it's optional, but this way, no matter where it's used, whoever is like the caller of this button can provide some modifications. So just something I'm going to keep in mind as I build these. I want everything to have a modifier paren. Okay, and with that, uh, let's talk about this button. So a nice thing is we already have like a button composable in Compose, and then we could put some text inside of it um, that has some text. And let's break down these steps. So part of what I need to break down is that everything that we use in here, I'm even gonna, I don't know if I'll always use this, but we'll use named arguments to be clear. Everything in here, I need to proxy up to whoever's actually going to implement this button, right? So we could have, you know, some text that comes in and an on click, which will be unit. And I've debated this idea. What do you think, chat? How do you feel about like providing default parameters on like your components? Because on one hand, this would be really nice, right? Because then anywhere I want to create a button, I could just create it. That is really nice. But it's also you could argue that like this is wrong. I should never create a button without considering click handling. I should never create a button without defining the text that needs to be inside of it. Um, I just find that like it can be painful for preview rendering. But I'm kind of the opinion that this is a necessary evil. So let me know if you disagree. Obviously, there are exceptions, right? Like a modifier. Or I could provide inside of this, I could provide some defaults here, and I probably will as I'm thinking about it. But so maybe it's not a bad idea to have like a little bit of both. Maybe I'm just talking out loud. Okay, but let's find this. So our text here, we'll just call this primary button. And then on click here. And our preview will just be empty. Question here, what made you decide streaming Android stuff? I've been building a Compose and KMM app as a side project. I really thought about doing a stream of me making the app. You should do it. Take the jump and do it. Let me know if you need help. But what ultimately, I started doing this a year ago. I only knew one other person. I only knew, there could be more. One other person who had done some Android streaming, one or two actually. So I kind of, when I started, I kind of saw it as an opportunity that like it was a space that not a lot of people had gotten involved in yet, and it would be a unique way for me to share my perspective with others. But now I just have fun. I love interacting with people, the seeming like paired programming that we do. I think this is a way I really like to teach, where it's like raw and uncut. When I was making my most recent YouTube video and I tried to like plan it out and like considered like filming certain portions of it, I was like, that's not me. I like to just do it and talk through my thought process. So basically what I'm rambling on is that it eventually became like, this is just what I wanted to do. And I think that if you would have fun doing it, you should do it. There will be, even if it's not a lot, whatever your goal is, there will be like a non-zero number of people who come hang out and want to see what you're building. And I think you should do it. You could record it, do it live on Twitch. You could record it, put it on YouTube. Someone will watch it. Someone will learn something from it. And you will learn a lot from the process too. And I think that that's really important. I learned a lot while I'm doing this as well. And so there's to me, not a real downside of it. The downside comes from when people put pressure on themselves to like have a certain number of viewers, and then you don't hit that. But if you don't really focus on that, like there's no downside. You're doing it anyways, and now you have the chance to do what you were already doing and help someone else at the same time. And so to me, it's like a net positive. Obviously, streaming is a lot of work, so that's the nuance I missed out, which is why I said, reach out to me on Twitter or Twitch Whisper if you don't have Twitter. Find a way to reach out to me if you have questions about getting started streaming, and I'd be happy to help you do that. Hope that answered your question. Let me know if you have more. To Raphael's point about defaults, yes, I just thought about that. So one thing is like for a text and on-click, of course, it makes no sense to So you mentioned being in Portugal. I watched I was looking for streams and I found a person making an Instagram clone on Android. They were Brazilian, but their stream was Portuguese. And there were people in there hanging out and watching it. So, it might be different. There's probably only so many Portuguese speaking Android devs. You're the second Portuguese speaking Android dev that I know personally, though. So there are people. I also made the assumption when you said you were from Portugal, that's what you speak, but that could have been a terrible assumption. I'm sorry. But whatever your native language is, I hope that there are other Android devs that you could interact with. But before I forget, I wanted to bring up something you mentioned about colors, or about defaults, if it makes sense. So one example being, my primary button, let me look at it in Figma, right? It makes on these screens, actually we see it here. What I meant by a primary button was like a solid colored rounded button. And we could say that most times we use it, it will use the primary color, but it's entirely possible that we give it a different color. So this is a great opportunity for a component that has words that has like a default. So we could say, you know, the color is going to have a default of, primary, but we could override it. Question in chat. Don't you want to save the lambda for the last parameter so you could have the enclosure outside? It's personal preference. We could. I well, hmm, I personally would never make a primary button, and then I in Compose I wouldn't do this, and here's why. Like, um, let's look at main activity real quick for an explanation. So you see how we have a surface, and then this lambda is what's inside of it, right? And that's how we're used to reading Compose code. So now let me change it just for so we can see it. Um, whoops. I have to do this to demonstrate this out loud. But if I did something like this, right, this reads to me when I'm looking at Compose code that this should be another composable function, that this should be something I put inside of there. That is like a personal opinion, right? You know, but I think that if I look at these side by side, especially in a screen like this, I'm seeing two trailing lambdas that behave differently. And that's coding. Um, yeah, but that's like my opinion. No, that's a good question. Um, it's something that when I started saying this, I was going to say it was personal opinion because I don't find that readable. Um, I, I like being explicit about what's happening, and it's not always obvious to me, the trailing lambda, but I realize that's a preference. Like Kotlin put it in the language for a reason, and there are times when I like it. Um, I can put this into better words for you. Now that I've said it, I can put it into better words for you. So when I think about a trailing lambda, right? Like I guess there's two ways I think about it, I guess. Like in Compose, I guess I don't know how maybe I don't. But I was gonna give an example of like if you have like a list and you do like um filter on the list. This is a lambda too, but I guess it's also helpful because you have like information about what's coming in. But in the on-click one, that wasn't clear to the reader. So I think there are situations where having a trailing lambda can work, but just around the on-click scenario, I I personally didn't feel that I felt that caused more confusion than helpfulness, but it's not. Um, yeah, in Compose, the last lambdas, the trailing is typically like another composable. But no, that was a great question, though. I'm glad we could talk through that. Um, so let's finish this out. We've got to give it a modifier. Um, this will be interesting. So on a button, we can't just override the color. If we look at the source code, it actually has a button colors class that comes in. So let's let's call them primary button color, or yeah, we'll call it button colors. And then we can just can I do this? Yes. We can override button colors. And what I want to do is there's probably a property. Why is it not Command P? Okay. There's a background color. And that's what we're going to give the color that was passed in. And we'll pass that into our button. Colors equal button colors. What else? Well, we also need to worry about So in my Figma design, I have the button height is fixed, and so is this like radius as a result. So let's override the height and the shape. On a modifier, we can do height. That was 48 dips. I don't know if I can extract. I can't extract a dimension in Compose. So let's do that ourselves. Let's go to our. We don't have a dimens file. Then make one. Um, values resource file dimens. Let's add a dimension. We're gonna call this button height. And we're gonna make this 48. And then, okay, dimension resource button height. Again, there's nothing wrong with just referencing the dimension right from your composable like this, but I like if I can put this somewhere and give it like a meaningful name, so that if I ever want to change my button height around the application, then that's just done for me. I also want to say, is this going to be true? I was going to say, I want to say that my primary button will always fill the maximum space that we give it. So I think this is looking good. The other thing we're going to need is to modify the shape. Is it not? What is it called? Yeah, shape. Here we're going to do rounded corner shape, and then I can actually give it like a ratio. Let's say Teal Shark, thank you for the raid. Oh, and a hide rate. Okay. What is the advantage of using dimension resource with a variable? So it's perfectly okay, in my opinion, to do something like this, where you specify the height here. But so your question might be like, as opposed to doing something like this, is just to clarify, is this what you mean? My answer is actually the same. And the reason being is that I'm, in this case, thinking ahead to other parts of the app. And one example being here, even though this is outlined, to get that consistent styling and spacing, or not even outlined, that this is like, there's no background, I gave it the same height. And so I'm thinking ahead to the fact that I'm going to create another button composable somewhere else in the app. But I want these two buttons to be consistent. So sure, you could create like a more global variable that could be referenced across those two files. But to me, one way to do that is creating a dimension resource. And then I can reference that same resource in my future button composable. And so I'll have two buttons that have the same height. And if I want to change my button height in the app, I just come to this line right here. So that was my justification. I could put like a button height variable like somewhere in my Kotlin code and reference it in two places. And I also think that that's valid if that's something you prefer. But I think like I just got used to dimension resources. So for me, that was where to put the reusable code, if that makes sense. Hope that was a good answer. Definitely a opinionated approach, but that's what I like to do. Yeah, of course. Great question. Web check. Like this is again, like if you live stream and people are watching, like this is another great way to learn from live streaming is like if I was watching someone else code back on YouTube, I wouldn't be able to ask them like, oh, why'd you do it this way? But Twitch enables that kind of conversation. And I really like that. I love when people ask me those questions. Even if my answer is because I like to, I can at least explain why that is, and someone else can see it a new way. Um, for really small things, like among the bigger topics. Um, let's split and let's build the project because I think that this is gonna be good enough um, for our primary button. So I just need to rebuild. Gotta love great builds. I really need to take time to figure out how to keep the music on in this stream while also being able to remove it from the videos. I have tried several approaches and I cannot get it to work on my MacBook. Um, and every tutorial out there is like on a Windows machine and they're showing that it works. And so I'm tempted to just be like, that's what I have to do. Okay, why isn't this rendering? Did I do something wrong? Maybe I need to do a rebuild entirely. Um, I'm also really glad that this mic is good because I can hear the dog's squeaky toy, but I can see that my audio mixer is not moving. So I'm glad that y'all can't hear the dog. Um, maybe one day I'll put in channel rewards points for going to fetch the dog and show him on the camera. Aha! Whoa. Okay, that was way more enhancing than I wanted to do. Um, okay, so it makes sense that these are the same, because yeah, words. Um, I didn't specify different colors for light and dark theme yet, but a couple things to pick up from this. So the first one, being that I want the text to be capitalized. So let's to uppercase locale.current. We're going to uppercase the text, and this was wrong. Um, oh, I want percent. Um, that's what I want, which is an integer. So 50, I think rounded corner shape 50 is how you get like a perfect pill shape. Yep, there we go. Awesome. So that is our primary button, looking clean. Um, okay, so that's good. Let's go ahead and make a commit real quick. Adding primary button. What changed in this file? Um, is this related to preview stuff? I don't know if this file needs to be committed to source control either. Um, so let's not add that. Trax is saying no, this file should not have been committed. Um, okay, so let's. Well, I disagree with the entire folder. There's actually files in there that are helpful, but I think which ones should be ignored is not consistent in the templates. Um, but there are helpful ones in there, actually. I can show you some that I think are. Let me do that before I go on to the other button. Um, so most of what you want to share between teams is, or what you put in here you don't want to share between teams. One that might be is like code style config. So we have KT lint in the app, so this isn't a big deal. But if you share this file, and another developer goes like, Command Option L, reformat code or whatever, they should reformat the same way across the team if you share this file. Another one that is apparently, I don't know why it's not here, because I added something. There's usually a dictionary.xml file in here, and so that can be shared across teams. So you could have like a consistent dictionary. Like let's say you have a company name that like always shows an underline, you could share a dictionary file between teams. Um, let me find you a YouTube video on this actually, real quick. I know this was there somewhere. DroidCon NYC. I know it's in here. Oh, I can't find it. I watched a talk on this at DroidCon New York. They went through this folder and they looked at which files you don't care about and which files you actually should share between team. That's how I learned about the dictionary and the code styling. Um, but some of it you don't, right? Like there's, if you're using navigation component, there's like a file in there that is like, contains like the layouts of the previews. I actually think that's what this one file is trying to do. But like that's something you don't want to share because you don't like every time someone messes with like their nav graph UI, it's gonna screw it up for everyone else. So I'll see if I can find it. I'll send it to you on Twitter. It was a good talk. Our push failed. Why? Um, oh, we've got a magic number. Ah, my own my own tooling caught me. Okay. Uh, I'm trying to wonder if I want to put this inside somewhere else. Because I might want this elsewhere actually. You know where I'm gonna put this? Words. We have a shaped file. Um, and I'm wondering if I just want to put like something in here. Like and then I think I'll still have the same problem. I think it's might still yell at me, but I can just do like this. I could say that this is one of those files that I don't care if there's magic numbers because this makes sense. So then here I'm gonna reference button shape. But I think I had another issue as well. Unused private variable. Oh, I fixed that. Okay. Um, let's run detect and make sure I don't have any other static analysis issues. We still do. Why? Unused private number. What's my unused private number? The preview function? Is that what it's yelling at me about? Do a clean build. What the heck? Oh, okay. Unused private member, primary button preview. Okay, this makes sense that this would be unused. So let's see if okay. So it's telling you it's not daytime yet, so it's unused. Yeah. So this is our detect config file. I could turn this rule off entirely, but I don't want to do that. But I can see here they allow something helpful where you can set allowed names of things that are expected to be unused. So here, I think I could just add preview. I don't know if it does like what's the word? Like regex on it, but let's try to do that. So this would be nice if this works because then oh, it ends in preview. Can we do this? All right, how did I do this in the past? Because I have other projects that use this. Um, let me pull up another project on my other window here and see if I can. Okay, on another project, I just turned this off, um, which maybe I want to do. Um, if I can't figure this out. Oh, I guess this is probably the full name, so maybe I can't do regex here. All right, I will turn this off, but I'm gonna make a mental note to see if I can find another way for detect to handle this. All right, that passed. Pleasing the detect gods. All right. So we added our primary button. Um, I forgot to tag the issue number in both of those commits. That's fine. Um, we can do it with the next one. Let's add our secondary button. Um, and our secondary button is going to follow this for the most part. Um, but yeah, so detect CP, the problem was I have static analysis with detect, and it looks for any private properties or anything that is unused, and it errors. So because nothing calls this function, it errored. Now I guess this doesn't have to be private, but I think it makes sense. Um, and I couldn't find a way to modify detect. I couldn't find a way here to see if I could like ignore specific types, so I just turned this rule off. Um, in theory, I could fix it if I just made this public, but I still don't know if I mean, I guess I could do that, but I think we can keep it as is. Um, Let me know if you have any thoughts, but I think I'm going to move on. Um, so our secondary button, I actually just realized something I might have left out here. This text color, I guess it's always going to be the same. Um, I can ignore it per function. Um, yeah, I think you have the right idea. You both have a good idea. And here's why I didn't go with those. Sorry, my brain jumped ahead. So one is that I could suppress here, and I could do unused private member. And so then let me go back here and turn this on. So if I put the suppress on the function, um, it should pass. Yep, that works. Um, to exclude all preview annotations would require some custom work on my end because the current detect setup doesn't allow it. Um, Now some do, like if we look at this one, I'm not sure what triggers this, but some detect rules allow you to exclude annotations, um, but this one doesn't. So this would probably require some custom work on my side. However, with Raphael's idea, I just thought of a way that I could modify this. So if I know that, do I need, yeah. So if I know that all of my previews are going to be private, which they are because I use a live template, I could just add this to my live template. So if I go here and I look up live templates, okay, in the Kotlin one, here's where I have this live template for creating the day-night preview. This is all the same code that you just saw. I could just put this right here. And then so the next time I create a preview, it will just have that suppression there for me. I think that's a valid approach. Um, One way to do it. Okay. What was my other thought that my brain had? I really need to ignore this file. I'll do it I'll do it after. Unless anyone wants to see a trick for removing a file from Git when you've already added it. But before my brain forgets, I'm going to call this background color. Whoops. And then I'm also going to add an optional for text color. Um, on primary. And so then we could put that here. Just in case I need to modify the text color of the button in the future. I think that there's actually I don't know if I can call it. So yeah, that's fine. We'll go with that. Um cool. So the next thing I want to do is I want to create what I'm going to call a secondary button. That's more or less the same thing. Uh, yeah, but the problem is I can't do that right away because I've already added the file. Um, but there is a way to do it, I think. I'll do that after I do the secondary button stuff. Um, what I want to say about the secondary button is I basically want it to words. I want it to have the same like size and shape and everything so that it behaves the same, even though it's not going to have the same background. So what I'm going to do for this approach is I'm going to copy this file and then just tweak a couple of lines to get it to what we actually want. So let's make a new file here, call it secondary button, and then just paste everything. And we'll do a quick find and replace. So everywhere we have primary button, we're going to replace with secondary button, which should update everything. Nice. So what's going to change here? Well, first of all, we're going to get rid of background color. And so we get rid of colors. We still want a text color. In this case, it will be our primary color. We want the same modifier and everything. But and another way we can just get the text behavior we want is Compose actually has a text button class for or composable for us. So we could just replace button with text button. And if it's that simple, once this builds, it should just work. I want to look at the button composables a little further, actually, okay, actually, here we go. Enhance. Okay, so this worked. It's not super clear here because our primary button is blue. Let's slap this on a surface and then and then refresh. Okay, so that's what it would look like. This is cool. So why did I say I want to look at the buttons a little further? Well, because I think what I did around the text color here is wrong. I say that because on button colors, we have a content color, which is the content color of this button when enabled. So this is actually what the text color would be if I didn't override it myself. And actually, I'm wondering, can I call this myself? I could. So actually, if I'm looking at primary button, so the first thing is I don't need to override the text color. I can put it here. But the other thing is that because Compose is smart enough to say the content color is based on the background color, I think I don't need to override it at all. And Compose will just figure out, it will use my on primary color automatically. So I can actually trim out some code there. And I think we can do a similar thing over here. Right, so let's look at text button. So there are text button colors, which have also the same why not text button? Because I don't want a transparent background. For primary button, I want the colored background. But I'm actually looking at these text button colors. Since the background color is transparent, I don't need the shape. No. What really mattered there was the height. So yeah, I can actually get rid of a lot of secondary button stuff now. It will default to the primary color, so we can get rid of that. We don't need the shape. I do still want it to have the same height and the fixed width. Ooh, you're right. The shape will impact the ripple. Okay, the shape's coming back. But I don't need the colors. Um, I want the height, I want the fill width. Okay, so this is pretty good. Let's build and refresh. We can actually run this in interactive mode, I think. I don't know how to get to it. We could run a preview of this. Uh, no, don't disable the ripple. We want the ripple. Um, let's deploy a preview to the emulator, and we can verify. If I don't have any issues deploying preview, which I have recently. Yep. Okay, so with the ripple, it's kind of hard to see because it goes to the edge of the screen, but you can see that it has the rounded side, so we're going to keep the shape. Awesome. Okay, so let's get rid of this darn miscellaneous file. I have memorized this hack because I've had to do it so many times. Um, let me let this commit happen, then I'll show you all the trick. Okay, so this file has already been added to Git, which is why IntelliJ doesn't give me an option to add it to my gitignore file. Do I know how to change the ripple color? Uh, let me look that up after this. I have a hunch, but I don't know off the top of my head. Okay, so this won't let me add it to my gitignore file. So what I can do is I can add it myself. Um, now, this doesn't change the problem that it's already been added to Git, right? So what I need to do is remove everything from my Git cache. So this is the command I know. Remove everything from the Git cache. Or I guess we could technically remove just this file, but this is the way I've seen it done. So the Git cache is empty. Now I need to add everything again. And what just happened there was we cleared our Git cache, we added everything, but now Git is going to recognize that there was a difference from before and after where that missed file is no longer there. So if we do a git status, we can see that this file was deleted. Now it's still there on my machine, but as far as Git is concerned, it was deleted. So now if I do a commit here, it will no longer be on the Git side. And then in my GitHub pull request, this file will show as a deleted file. Now it's in my Git history because it was in the initial project, but it's no longer there. You have that on a script. Yeah. Okay, our typography PR is done. That was a while ago, so let's merge that. This does close 19, so let's do that. Um, and let's make a new pull request for adding primary. Just add the primary button and secondary button, composables to match our design system. Um, I think this will yell at me because I didn't update stream history for this section. So let's do that. And actually, while we're here, let's get the pull requests. So buttons is going to be pull request 37. 36 would be typography, and 35 would be colors because we've been doing them in order. So those pull requests will be helpful. All right. Um, cool. We can cross another thing off the list. We finished buttons. So let's oh, I have conflicts. That makes sense. That keeps happening because we keep modifying this file. So let's just clean up that right there. Awesome. Okay. So that keeps happening because I don't wait for it to finish. I just start a new branch. Um, and guess what? We're going to do it again for the inputs. Um, this will close when we're done. So let's add the text field. Um, yeah, let's implement our custom text field. So, yeah. All right. Text fields in Compose are fun. I think I did a whole stream where I talked about them one time. But one thing is, I'm not sure what to call this. Primary button and secondary button were those just came to me. But what do we call like our own text field? Typically, my approach to this, if it's like something I'm branding for my app, but I don't know what else to call it, is I just prefix it with the app, so I could call it like TOA text field. Um, and maybe that's the way to do it because primary text field feels weird, although it is. So let's just call it a TOA text field. You know what I'm also really bad at doing today? Documentation. So let's try to get better at that. Um, this is a custom implementation of a text field to ensure that it has the POA branding and styling that we expect. Set up the preview. Theme. Um, okay, what does a text field need? Well, we need the actual text. Um, we need text changed. So that's a callback that takes in a string when our text changed. We have our label text. That's something we care about. And then a modifier if we need it. That's optional. Whoops, not that one. And then in here, we can create an outline text field. Value will be text. Value change will be on text changed. For a label, we can put in a text. Text equals label text. Oops, not here. Modifier. We want it. And I think out of the box, that might be enough to get us started. But we also want a shape on this. Can we specify a shape? I'm just reading through all of these options. Yep. Shape, we can do button shape. Now this is a debatable topic, so I want this to have the same shape as a button, but conceptually it feels weird to reference button shape inside text field. So I think what I'm gonna do, even though they are the same, I think I'd still rather just kind of have like cover my ass and have button shape and text field shape. Um, and they're right next to each other, so if I want to change one, hopefully I realize they're connected. Um, but I'd rather just have a different name because I find that to be a little more clear here. Um, let's throw in a preview. And let's see what this is of an outlined text field. Let's see what our preview looks like. Um, this will probably get more complicated as we go into the idea of um, visibility modifiers and stuff. Um, some of you might be wondering at this current moment, um, why did I make a custom composable when, oh, and let me put a surface around this too. So I have that white background. Um, so you might be asking, well, like, I'm not doing anything new here other than like shape and label. So like, um, why have a custom component here? And basically my answer is because of these two things. Because I want these to be consistent no matter where they're used. Um, and it's only two things now, but it could be more in the future. Um, I've actually never seen a preview do this. Um, like this is weird that I see the line through here. Um, I've never seen a preview do this. I don't think it's supposed to do that. Um, aha. Well, okay. Let's run it on device. I could. Um, I think that's because it's not no. Yeah, let's run it on device. There's another thing here in that this is chonky. Why is it so large? We're gonna have to dig in. I think actually the default outline text view is like 56 dp. Um, yeah, chunk. Um, and I wanted it to be 48, the same as the button. So, okay, yeah, it looks fine on here. Um, and I guess I thought unfocused, that the background looks a little light, but I guess that's standard, right? So we can roll with that. Um, okay, let's look at height. I looked into this once and it was actually a little tricky. So let's dig into some source code together. I'll find what I'm looking for and then I'll show you, because it's deep in the source code that you eventually see it. Um, it's here. I promise. I will find it for you. Is it all the way in here? Aha. Okay. So all the way down the source code, it eventually creates this basic text field. And it has this modifier, default min size. And it has like a min width and a min height. Um, I also realized with the min width, like we probably want this to fill the whole screen as well. So I think I'll change that. Um, but yeah, so it has a min height, right? We can see that here, and it's 56. But it says in the docs, uh, whoops. Well, first the docs have a typo because it says min width on min height. Applied for a text field, outline text field. Note that you can override it by applying modifier.height in directly on a text field. So that's what we're going to need to modify this height in. Touch area is too small. I don't know what you're referring to there. But before we add that height in modifier, well, okay, we'll add it and then I'll talk about what I want to change as well. So here's our modifier. We could do height in, and then um, what did I say? Well, okay, so it's the same thing. I want to reference button height, that 48 dp that I've decided. Um, and I sleep at night. Yes, because I'm not the one who wrote that monstrosity. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. everyone at Google, I love you. Um, but no, I barely slept that night when I had to dig so far into that. And then I ended up building an entirely custom text field. Uh, I can't really tell you what it is that I'm working on yet, but I mean, I probably could. But soon, when it's actually out there, I'll show you all the custom text field I made. Uh, because I had issues with the height, but then I had other issues, so I ended up making a whole custom text thing myself. Carrying on, I want to do the same thing here. Even though I want my buttons and my text fields to be the same, it just feels wrong to have them share dimensions. So we're going to duplicate the dimension there as well. And now let's build and refresh this, and hopefully it's a little less chunky. Okay, it's not at all less chunky. Why not? I'm running it on device. I feel like the documentation lied to me. Right? This is... Oh, maybe it didn't. Maybe it didn't. Maybe because the difference was 8 dips, so it's not that large. But okay, it did change. All right, so then my eyes are deceiving me. But I think you're right. I think it's good. Oh, and then we did want to say we want this to fill max width. Um, Looks like that doesn't automatically re-render on the device. That's one that doesn't. But ooh, I'm not on a new branch. Let me get on a new branch real quick. Thank God I noticed that before I committed anything. What the heck? This is not the preview that I ran. Uh, Gotta love when stuff is still a little buggy. I'm not even in that file. Okay. All right. Well, Compose just decided that we're running the primary button preview. Um, Screw it. But it's fine. I know this worked because this got wider as well. Um, okay. So I think there's more that I want to do to this. Like I want to include like capitalization type and stuff like text cap words and all that. I'll add that later. Um, I think um, I'm also a little concerned. Whoops. I don't think that this text style, this label, when it's up here, is one of mine. Um, because that does not look like the same font. And I've dug into this source code a little bit before too. Let me show you. Um, we have to dig in all the way to where label goes. Um, where have I seen this? Aha. So, oh, maybe it was. So it starts at subtitle 1 and it ends at caption. And I did define both of those in my typography, right? Subtitle 1. Oh, I didn't define the caption text style. So when it's, I see. So the label when it's empty will look fine. Let's actually do this. So let's create a preview. Let's call it filled. And then let's add another preview and call it empty. And then here, our text is just going to be empty. And so now we can see what our text field looks like um, when there's no text inside of it. Aha. So we can see here, when there's no text inside, the label's using my text styles. When it's not, we can see this like roboto looking default. And the reason is because way down wherever the hell I was, um, the text style it uses when it's at the top is caption. Um, so we basically just need to define caption. Uh, Here's how I'm going to do that. I'm going to look at the typography class and I'm going to find the defaults. And specifically, I'm noticing, the caption font size is 12. So they're going to need me for which one? Oh, the text style? Could be a good blog post idea. Um, so font size, 12, font family. Oh God, what should it be? Um, I don't know the answer to this. Um, it's normal weight. I didn't get like a regular. I guess I could use Urbanist Light, but maybe instead of Urbanist Light, I should have just used Urbanist Regular. Um, because even looking at this feels like, I mean, it's light. That's literally what it's called. But we'll leave that for today. Maybe that's something we change as we add more in the app. But now we have more consistent styling. I have to go to regular. Let's do it right now. I still have, I don't still have the, I still have the file open. Um, let's do it right now. We're going to copy this. Okay, we're going to go into project. We're going to go into res font, um, paste, Urbanist regular. So then we're going to go into typography here. Font family, font. Um, where do we use light? We use it on body. I guess for body it could be fine. Oh, it uses medium and subtitle. Interesting. Okay, let's put regular for caption. What does body one typically do? Normal. Oh, but I don't think there's a light font weight in the defaults. Oh, there is. Interesting. Um, I think this will be fine. I think having normal up here will be nice. Okay. Okay, I think that looks okay. Oh god, everything's jumpy. We can definitely, as we start throwing stuff on screen, we can definitely continue to improve on the styling, but at least we've gotten it in here. Um, okay. I know that we'll update this file in the future, but let's call it what it is. While we're here, let's try to be good about some documentation. I mentioned this is something I want to be really good at in this app. So I always go through the debate of like how much um oh, I learned about a plugin that wraps your KDocs for you, by the way. I need to try that. Um about like how much documentation I want. Like, do I want this to be a project where I document every single param? Uh maybe, right? If I want this to be a learning resource, then maybe this is the right thing to do. Um so let's do that. On text changed, this will be a callback invoked whenever the user modifies the text inside this input. Um, label text, the label that shows above the input when focused. Yeah, we'll call it that. Um, Modifier to configure this component. So a lot of our docs are pretty much going to be the same thing, but uh, it's good to keep myself accountable and do this. So you can say this is a custom button that provides the shape and styling expected in the TOA application. Text inside the button. On click, a callback invoked when the user clicks the button. We've got modifier, one optional modifier to configure this component, and we've got background color on the button in the enabled state. And I think I'm basically going to back just in time for documentation. Welcome back. Similar thing here, I'm going to copy this. This is a custom text button that provides the shape and styling expected in the application. And then we can just get rid of that line because that's not there. Okay, we added some documentation. Cool. So we're going to say added TOA text field. That's what this commit did. Do we have any open pull requests? Buttons are done. So let's close this. Fixes 34. And let's clean this up because some of this was already merged in. Oh yeah, how were your tacos, Prince? Were they everything you hoped they would be? This is gonna have, ooh, this has a good chunk of conflicts, probably because of my documentation. So before we resolve those conflicts, let's give it one more merge conflict. Stream history. We're gonna add this pull request. All right. So after we push this, we'll update some merge conflicts, and then we are almost done with the stream. Then we can add the app icon, which unfortunately, so little spoiler alert. This little checkmark right here, um, ever so slightly, is not a perfect circle. And as a result, when you install it on a device and you look at it on the launcher and you have like a colored circle behind it, you can see this because it's not consistent spacing on the icon. Um, I might reach out to the person who made this and see if they can tweak it because I don't trust myself to do it. I'll still add it for today because it would be cool to see the process and we could talk about it, but that was a little frustrating that happened. So I'll show you all what I mean in a second. Let's resolve all these conflicts. Um, Basically, it's just anywhere I change this file. So remove the inputs line, remove these. Yeah, program resistant. Okay, we went too far. Um, that's resolved. And that's resolved. And this is resolved. And yep, that's our new font style. Oh, we're not done. We're good. Oh, because we added caption. Ooh, let's throw in a comma there. Keep those trailing commas in place. Demands. Oh god, why is this all red? Okay, we're good now. And that's good. Okay, awesome. All right, a lot of stuff going on there, but I think that will be good. Um, so let's check that off our list, and let's add the logo. What I'm gonna do real quick, I'm gonna switch to do some cleanup for a quick sec. Switch back to development, pull my code, and let's delete these unused branches now. And let's go to the project. Um, awesome. Ah, you may have missed the part in the beginning where one of my friends sent me a really good article to keep in mind as I started this, which was basically you don't need a to-do list app, you need a schedule maker. And part of the explanation was just like to-do list apps are never ending, right? And then you just have this stuff that like is never ending and it's so much work to complete and it's overwhelming. But really what you need is like a schedule maker. You need to decide what you need to do for whatever reason and when you're going to do it. And then you actually have like structure toward completing those goals. Um, so I thought that was really good. So rather than having an app that just endlessly shows you your list of items, it'll be kind of like that, but also more structured to show it like by date, which is why like my Figma screens are kind of what they are. So like that's why this screen was my tasks. Oh, I thought you were talking about the app. Anyways, I'm gonna finish this rant in case anyone else was hooked onto this idea. So that's why these screens are kind of what they are, of like showing what I need to do today, and then the input is strictly what do you want to accomplish? When do you want to do it? That's all we need to know. And yes, I love doing this GitHub thing too because I love seeing like all these things move through. Um, if only my real Jira, if only my real Jira board moved like this. Um, it's looking like it did 3 weeks ago. But anyways, I digress. All right, let's do the app icon. Um, that is number 20. Okay, so to add an app icon, spoiler, I already have on my desktop the .svg file of this checkmark logo. So all I have to do from this point is go into here, right click new image asset. Uh, right click new image asset. No, I want image asset, not vector asset for this one, but it's not working. Um, I don't want vector asset. Image asset, the image asset window gives me an option to uh, select for an app icon. Can I do like, how do I open it? Or what happens if I do like image asset? Oh no, is it hidden somewhere else? Nope, it's not there. Oh no. Can you please show the Git tab in Android Studio? Uh, what I have for, do I have the Git window? Um, I don't look at this a whole lot. Um, how do I view, oh, is this what I want? Um, so this is probably what you're asking because of the slashes. So it kind of makes them look like folders. Um, but that's kind of cool. I guess if I had multiple PRs for a ticket, it would be cool to see them this way. All right, I don't know why. I don't know why the image asset window won't show up. This is a bummer. Maybe we skip the logo step for tonight then. This might be a bug. Yeah, it worked on my other machine. Because I was playing around with this ahead of stream. But all right, improvise. How do we improvise? Well, if the other one worked, we can at least add that here. The icon is not fixed anyways. Yeah, exactly. Um, I mean, I could at least add the SVG here to like our drawable folder, so I could reference it in the app if we wanted to. But it looks kind of grainy. Oh god, I keep doing that. I keep trying to zoom in with my trackpad, and then it just blows everything up. Okay, that's actually not bad. Um, so we could, if we don't want to end stream, let me see if I'm gonna say no. If we didn't want to end stream, we could take everything we built today and build out this screen real quick, this little welcome screen, and then we could call it a day. Um, what do you think, chat? Do we want to build the login screen? Let's do it. Okay.